Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into the science of persuasion. You know, why some messages just click and convince people, while others, well, they just seem to vanish into thin air. We're going to unlock some of the secrets of neuromarketing so your communication can be way more effective.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever spent ages crafting the perfect email, a killer presentation, or what you thought was a brilliant ad campaign, only to watch it fall completely flat? I mean, you laid out all the logical reasons, you had the data, all the features, and you got crickets. Well, the problem might be simpler and honestly a lot more profound than you think. You might just be talking to the wrong brain. And this quote right here, this is the heart of the issue. See, traditional marketing is kind of built on this flawed idea that people are these totally rational beings who know exactly what they want. But, decades of brain science tell a completely different story. Most of the time, we can't even explain our own motivations. Why? Because the real decision maker in our head isn't the part that actually talks.
And that leads us to what I like to call the marketing black hole. It's where countless hours and, millions of dollars get sucked up by messages that were pretty much destined to fail from the get-go. So let's take a look at why our standard tools so often lead us astray.
Think about our go-to methods, right? Surveys, focus groups. We're relying on people to tell us what they're thinking. But we just established they often can't. And web analytics? Sure, they track what people do, the clicks, the actions, but they completely miss what we could call the invisible clicks. The subconscious stuff happening in the brain before anyone ever moves their mouse. A perfect example of this is when Procter & Gamble, literally the world's biggest advertiser, had to scale back their Facebook ads because they just weren't getting the results. The data was telling them one story, but it was missing the most important part. So, if our old methods are flawed, what's the answer? Well, it's all about understanding who is really calling the shots inside your customer's head. So let's do a quick tour of the brain and meet the true decision maker. First up, you've got the neocortex. This is the new or rational brain. This is the part we think we're selling to all the time. It's the one that loves data, spreadsheets, features, all those complex logical arguments. It's also really slow and takes a ton of energy to use.
Then in the middle, we have the limbic system. You can think of this as the emotional brain. It's all about feelings, gut instincts, and social stuff. It's a key player for sure, but it's still not the one with the final vote.
And finally, we meet the real boss, the primal brain, sometimes called the reptilian complex. This is the oldest, most primitive part of our brain. Seriously, it's been running the show for millions of years, and its only job is to keep us alive. It's a super fast, instinct-driven gatekeeper that filters every single piece of information that comes its way. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the difference here. The primal brain is incredibly fast. It's automatic, it's visual, and it only cares about survival. The rational brain, it's slow, logical, and it thinks in words. So here's the absolute key takeaway. Before your brilliant logical message can ever hope to reach that rational brain, it has to get past the primal brain's security checkpoint first. And trust me, that primal brain does not care one bit about your quarterly projections. So how do we get past this tough gatekeeper? Well, lucky for us, the primal brain has a very specific secret code. It only pays attention to a handful of things. If your message doesn't have these triggers, it just gets tossed out. So let's break down the 6 stimuli that are basically the only language this ancient brain actually understands. First up, your message has to be personal. The primal brain is totally selfish. Its only real question all day long is, what's in it for me? Is this going to help me survive? Is it going to help me thrive or avoid some kind of threat? The second your message starts with we or our product, you've lost its attention. It has to be all about you, the customer. Second, it needs contrast. The primal brain is wired for speed. It wants to make fast, easy decisions, and it hates being confused. So clear, sharp contrasts like before and after, risk versus safety, or with our solution versus without it. That's what makes choosing simple and effortless. Any kind of ambiguity is the absolute enemy of persuasion. Third, you gotta keep it tangible. The primal brain just skips over abstract ideas and complicated jargon because, honestly, it takes too much energy to figure them out. So use simple, concrete, easy-to-grasp ideas. Instead of saying something like, our synergistic value proposition, just say, more money in your pocket. Simple. Fourth, make it memorable. You know how our brains work, right? We tend to remember the beginning of something and the end of something. everything in the middle gets a little fuzzy. So you have to hook that primal brain with a really powerful opener and then leave it with a strong, clear closing.
Number 5 is a huge one. Be visual. I mean, this is just biology. Our optic nerve is like a superhighway straight to the primal brain. It processes information something like 25 times faster than our hearing does. The primal brain evolved to spot threats and opportunities in a split second. And that's why a powerful image or a really simple diagram is always going to be more persuasive than a big block of text.
And finally, the 6th and maybe the most important trigger of them all, emotion. Emotions create these little chemical cocktails in our brain that basically put a big, bright flag on information, telling our brain, hey, this is important. Remember this. A message without emotion is a message that's just going to be forgotten. Emotion isn't just a nice to have. It's the key that unlocks the whole decision-making process.
Okay, so we've got the theory down, right? Talk to the primal brain, use those 6 triggers. But how do we actually put that into practice? Let's walk through a really simple 4-step plan to build a message that actually works.
So this is the NeuroMap framework. It's a simple 4-step process for making your message brain-friendly. First, you have to diagnose the customer's pain. Then you differentiate your unique claims. Third, you demonstrate the gain they're going to get. And finally, you package all of that up and deliver it straight to the primal brain using those 6 triggers we just talked about.
Now let's really focus on that critical first step, diagnosing the pain. Why? Well, because the primal brain is way more motivated by avoiding pain than it is by achieving a gain. Pain creates urgency. So your job is to figure out and really amplify one of 3 core types of pain. Financial pain, losing money. Strategic pain, like falling behind your competitors. And personal pain, like the stress and frustration that comes from a tough job. Your solution has to be framed as the ultimate relief for that specific pain.
Okay, let's make this super practical. How can you tell if the message you're using right now is actually hitting the mark? Well, here is a simple persuasion scorecard you can use to grade your own work, like today. For each of the 6 triggers, just ask yourself these really simple questions about your message. For personal, does it really focus on you, the customer, and your frustrations? For contrast, is there a super clear before and after? For visual, can somebody get the point without even reading the text? And for emotional, does it create that powerful shift from the pain you identified to a feeling of relief? Be really honest with yourself. Is your message truly brain-friendly?
In the full NeuroScoring system, which has a bunch more questions, a score over 200 out of 240 is the goal. That tells you your message is highly persuasive. It's a clear, quantifiable way to know you're on the right track, and it takes all the guesswork out of communication.
And look, if you only take away one single thing from our time together, please let it be this quote from the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio. This is the entire field of neuromarketing in one sentence. We are not thinking machines that feel. We are feeling machines that think. Emotion is the driver. Logic is just the passenger along for the ride. So the next time you write an email, or you build a presentation, or you design a web page, just ask yourself this one question. Are you talking to that logical, slow, energy-guzzling, rational brain? Or are you speaking the fast, simple, emotional language of the primal brain, the one that's actually making the call? Is your message really designed to be remembered? Or is it, like so many others, just designed to be ignored? The choice really is yours.